going on with this. Right, this is the one that was changed earlier. So this was changed on the 9th. Let's go to latest changes. So again, it says major investigation. The category is major investigation and public protection. Missing persons, guidance, missing person risk assessment, minor changes made. Now, this isn't minor changes in my mind. I don't know what this bit in brackets is about. Oh, no, no, I do, but I don't know what the beginning of it is. Link to College Learn. I don't know what that's. I didn't see anything about that, but I might have just missed it, so we might see it on the way. New bullet point added to initial questions list. Mental health added to sentence in gathering information and intelligence. I just can't believe that there wasn't already a question about this, or that somebody wouldn't have asked about it. Like, it's like, come on, really. The fact that you are complaining about the fact that you're dealing with mental health all of the time in the police is probably could give you a bit of a clue that you might need to ask about it. It's something that's clearly a very prevalent issue, social issue, especially now in post COVID. It's just got worse. Reference to vulnerability related risk guidelines and sentence added to assessing risk levels and taking action. So this is giving an indication that if this was changed as a result of if this was anything to do with Nicola's investigation, it suggests that they hadn't got the right end of the stick at the beginning. They hadn't assessed her vulnerability um, adequately. They hadn't done an adequate assessment, so they didn't know. And when we look at sort of interviews with Paul, he's so trying to be so upbeat. I don't. I'm not sure that he actually realised how, or either maybe he didn't realise, or he was kidding himself about her mental health. Um, People don't always realise. I my dad committed suicide, and a lot of people were absolutely, completely bowled over, shocked, could not believe it. You would have said the things that have been said about Nicola are similar to things that have been said about my dad. Sort of happy-go-lucky, bubbly. Um, he was just positive, active, and then he but I mean, it does seem like her mental health took a quicker turn, but there may have been other things that came into play with that. We don't know if she might have been prescribed medication and it might not have suited her. I'm not saying that she was, by the way. I'm saying we don't know if that could have been the case, or if perimenopause might have caused something underlying to become much more prominent in her mental health. Um, Also, anybody who's quite perfectionistic, they are really at risk with if their mental health goes south. People who are perfectionists and want to get everything right, that they are the most vulnerable, really, because you can't you can't when your mental health is in tatters, and if you're trying to put on this brave face, it could be just um it suppressing it all. What happens when you suppress things, when you suppress them, they can just explode in the end. Right, I'm not sure if I'm going to keep that bit in because I've gone a bit more in sort of detail regarding regarding mental health, and I meant to, but anyway. Uh, so minor changes made. So missing persons risk assessment. Sometimes it's hard to figure out which bits are the bits they changed. I can't remember if this is obvious or not. No, thank you. Close panel. Right, first contact, the call handler must gather as much relevant information as possible, as this will determine the initial police response. This information will also support those responsible for the initial risk assessment in their decision-making process, directing the priority of the police response and level of resources needed. In addition to the information gathered in response to the initial risk assessment questions as outlined below, I think this was where I thought they still haven't asked a question about mental health. Call handlers should record as a minimum the following details: name, age, description of person, description of clothing, home address, location missing from, circumstances of going missing, details of any vehicle or transport used, the relevant information concerning the person reporting the disappearance, location of where the missing person might be, any medication the missing person requires. See, if she wasn't on medication, or even if Paul wasn't aware that she was on medication, then that might not have flagged up mental health. Any medication the missing person requires, frequency of taking, and effects of not taking it. I wonder if that is what's been added, because that's unusual, isn't it? And effects of not taking it, and that's what we've been told, that Nicola had stopped taking her HRT. I mean, had she literally just stopped taking it just prior to this? Like, like how just before the 10th, I would assume. If the thing that could really make your mental health go south, and I know this from my own experience, and this is exactly what happened with my dad, and this was exactly the reason his mental health deteriorated so much, is insomnia. You do not know what can happen to your mental health if you have not suffered with insomnia, and you you know like, I can have nights where I don't sleep at all. I mean, not a wink of sleep. And if you then try and just carry on regardless, this was what was happening with my dad, and this went on for about 3 years. So in 3 years, 2 years, I think it was, in that time, he had had so little sleep. It just, he just couldn't operate. He just couldn't function. And then it's making him paranoid. Why can't I remember things? Why can't I, thinking that there's something. Um, I mean, I don't know if it was just the insomnia, but I know from myself that it can make my thinking go weird when I have had next to no sleep, sometimes no sleep, and that is a real, real red flag, to be honest. And so that I have noticed this happens, and I'm sorry for people who are not comfortable talking about women's issues, but they shouldn't just be women's issues, because guess what? Women don't just live with women live with men as well, and children, and we live as a society, and we shouldn't be avoiding these issues. It is kind of unfortunate in a way that we've kind of, oh well, no, it couldn't be perimenopause, and just swept that aside. Well, I think it's not out of the realms of possibility, because of the effect that it can have on your sleep. I think that's the number one. And if you get prescribed a medication, because that was also a factor with my dad, that he that it, antidepressants weren't helpful. I'm not saying that not helpful for everyone, because I've taken them myself. I have had to start taking them again more recently, because I get winter depression, and I probably should have been taking them over the winter, but I had been trying not. I just I've taken them for so long that I thought, no, come on, you can do without it. But no, actually, I can't. And unfortunately, we see it as a oh, if you just try hard enough. It's not like that though. There's chemicals in your body that change. It's not just serotonin. There's so much more to it than that. And things change in your and then if you can't get your sleep, you your thinking can go all funny and can do. Oops, I keep doing that. Can go south. Um, so I think that this one is definitely something that was changed as a result of Nicola's, because they couldn't just wait and have an investigation or anything. I mean, what if another person goes missing in the next few days and somebody doesn't flag up mental health or and look into what medications? This, really, this does need to be a red flag area, and it's not, because that's another thing that I also can't take HRT at the moment. Um, I'm a similar age to Nicola. I should be taking it. Actually, I was prescribed it not for perimenopause. I was prescribed it for something that you probably never heard of, called PMDD, which is premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which is basically like PMT on steroids, and that is a big risk factor for suicide. And um, basically, so anyway, that was why I was prescribed the HRT originally. I was prescribed it long before I was in the age category, and then I think the thing is that hormones can change a lot after you have children. So I would say that um, has happened with me and has caused this extreme reaction to my hormones to changes in my hormones every month, and I will have severe insomnia every month, to the point that leading up to that time, I will be barely getting any sleep. And then what happens if you barely get any sleep? You're extremely on edge, and you can depend. I mean, it could depend on your personality type, but you can be reactionary. Think about being hangry. Same thing, really. And I do get and that's also another thing. Like you can get that more as well. Um, and that just affects relationships. How it's really hard to parent. Um, So I think this points specifically to the bit. I think this has been added specifically because of Nicola's case, and they've realised it's something that they need to flag up. As if you just stop taking antidepressants as well, could be that that's a real red flag, because you can't just suddenly stop taking those. You have to stop really, really gradually, even more gradually than the doctors advise, and that's there's been a lot of research on that, and GPs are still saying, "Oh, you can come off it. We take about 2 weeks to a month to come off it." No, 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 don't do that. Don't do that. Slowly, 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 and you have to go with what your body, because everybody's different. Unfortunately, just like different antidepressants don't work for everybody, and different ones affect people differently, which is just crazy, but that's just the way it is. Same for coming off antidepressants. Um, so I think that's the bit about mental health. Doesn't specifically say anything about mental health. What was the other thing they said? They said a sentence. Let's go back. No, 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 no. I'm gonna miss it. Press the button. No, I haven't. It's not working. Um, So, reference to vulnerability related risk guidelines and sentence added to assessing risk level and taking action. Reference to vulnerability related risk guidelines. and sentence added to assessing risk level and taking action. Let's see. That was gathering information. Initial assessment, initial questions. It might be in that risk assessment. Parent and caring response, unreported absences, classification of risk, assessing risk level and taking action, sentence added. Right, where's this sentence then? I'm going to have to read from the top. The missing persons process